Every marketer wants to stand out, but too often we play it safe, stick to the rules, and blend in with everybody else. Sam Benton didn't want that. When he joined up with Rory Sutherland, they launched Mad Masters during lockdown. Their goal wasn't to teach textbook marketing, it was to rip up the rulebook, to show marketers what to do when the frameworks fail. He shares how pricing is never just a number, how creativity comes from culture, and why even the best ideas need space to incubate. Along the way, he revealed how a KFC product only succeeded when they doubled the price, why a cookie can become a brand's best marketing campaign, and how herd mentality shapes our every purchase. But before all that, Sam shares a career mistake that every ambitious marketer will recognise: the moment you realise you don't in fact know it all. Welcome to Embracing Marketing Mistakes, the podcast that helps you grow your brand faster, all by learning from the slip-ups of the world's top marketers. I'm Chris Norton, and my mission is to help you, the senior marketer, turn failure into your fuel for growth. Today, Will and I are joined by Sam Benton, co-founder of Mad Masters and part of the team behind MadFest London, the UK's biggest marketing event, to do with some free tickets. We talked about behavioural science, creativity, pricing psychology, and the cultural ingredients that make great marketing. Sam unpacks what behavioural science can teach us about pricing, how to build cultures that embrace creativity, and why failure might be the most valuable marketing tool of all. So, as always, sit back, relax, and let's hear how you can stop fearing failure and start using it to your advantage. Enjoy! Welcome, Sam Benton. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. How about you?
Yeah, good. Yeah, thanks for joining Will and I. We're here at last. So for those of people that have never heard of Mad Masters, do you want to just give us a rundown of what you guys do and why that is of interest to marketing professionals?
Yeah, Mad Masters is something that Rory and I started 4 years ago now, and it was mainly out there because there's so many online courses that are framework, textbook, fundamental things that you need to learn. A lot of them are sort of, here's 3 things to write down and report back to someone with, which definitely didn't fit the mold with what Rory teaches and what he always speaks about. So when we created this, we wanted to do something completely new and kind of give people the frameworks to do, of what to do when the textbooks don't work. How do you rip up the rule book? How do you dare to be different and sort of be less boring in what you do, which is a massive thing in marketing. It's how to stand out. It's how to find that next best idea. It's how to better solve problems and better take risks. So it's a very practical course that people can learn things from and then actually be able to apply them in scenarios the very next day.
How long is it? How long's the course?
Yeah, so it's 10 modules. You get access for 12 months. There's interactive live sessions with Rory and I. So it's not just here's a bunch of videos, watch them in your own time and then bugger off. You really get that community element to it. And you get to feel heard and inspired from them. So most people do it in 10 weeks. You get 12 months because we all know how things are with marketers, where you'll have an absolutely hectic month and not be able to touch anything or not want to touch anything else beyond the briefs you're working on. So it's always good to be able to come back to at different points.
And how did it come about, Sam? Sorry, Will.
Yeah, so our parent company is MadFest London, which many of the listeners may have heard of. It is the biggest marketing and advertising event in the UK. The year that's just gone, we had 15,000 people there. And that's been running for 7 years. And the fun times of around 2020, when COVID hit, physical events weren't the easiest thing to put on anymore. So we always had Rory as a headline speaker at that event. And when everyone was having to pivot to online, we thought, what can we do to really enhance the attendee experience of people that can't come to MadFest anymore? So we teamed up with Rory to really create this practical course and give people a chance, especially through COVID, to upskill and think about how they raise their own status in their organization. So it came about around COVID time when everything needed to go online, and it's really excelled ever since now. I think probably had about 10,000 people do it over the last 4 years.
Wow.
Which is incredible.
So this is quite an open question, but I loved what you said about kind of ripping up the rule book and standing out. And obviously as marketers, that's what we all want to do, isn't it? To stand out and not be boring and not just be another brand saying the same things. So clearly the course is weeks and weeks and weeks worth of learning, and we've only got an hour or so on the pod. But what kind of do you want to talk us through a few teachings or a few areas perhaps on the Mad Masters that allow brands to do that? In the pre-show chat, you're talking about pricing, for example. Is that something that people get wrong constantly?
Yeah, pricing is definitely a big thing, right? And this is something that Rory and I speak about quite a lot, and it's quite an impactful message to an economist, pricing is a number. To a consumer, pricing is a feeling. Which put simply, Rory and I were speaking about this the other day. We were both trying to buy one of those new Dyson air purifiers. And when we got to the checkout stage, you look at it and you see £450 and you think, no, I'm not going to buy that. That's way too expensive. But the invention of Klarna then comes in because you look at it, you see 3 times £150 and you go, oh, that seems pretty reasonable. I'll still buy it that way. It's the same price. They're all it's £450 regardless, but it's the way that as a consumer you feel when you look at something like that. So Klarna's obviously taken that space and done very, very well, but it's how you reframe pricing. It's how you can actually understand why consumers think the way they do, and then how you're able to influence that. Beyond that, we stand by that. I don't think anyone should ever discount pricing or reduce pricing. It's a weird one with KFC a while ago where KFC, they had a product that they brought out. It was meant to be this premium box thing that they were trying to sell, and it wasn't selling at all. They were really not doing well. And what they were going to do was either scrap it entirely or drop the price about 50% and see if it was going to be successful. But what we actually said was, no, why don't you double the price? Just play around with this, double the price of it and see how it goes. So they doubled the price and then it absolutely flew. It absolutely took off. It was like the best thing ever. Because people, if they're looking at a premium product, they're saying, well, why on earth is it the same price as everything else? It's a feeling. If they want it to feel premium, they want to be able to pay a premium pricing for it. So it's kind of how it's reframed and reshaped when you think about that really sort of like inspires people. How can you get that message across, and how can you think about any brand or anything that you're doing? How can you think about that in a different way?
One of my favorite kind of references on pricing, if you've ever watched Mad Men, Don Draper says 99 cents. Somebody came up with that. And it's true though, isn't it? That's now, the kind of irregular, it's just absolutely genius, and it's astonishing nobody ever came up with that before.
Yeah, the weird one another story on this was I think it was an espresso actually that came out with 2 coffee machines about 5 years ago, and there was one that was the super duper advanced, had all these extra features one, and then they had the basic one, and on the site they were the same price. So everyone bought the basic one because they thought, well, if that advanced one has all these extra features, but it's the same price as the basic one, there must be something they're not selling. Great. There must be something that means that this is going to blow up or burn my house down within months. I won't touch it. I'll just buy the standard one. Bizarre things like that.
It's crazy, isn't it? Because a lot of marketers, I hear a lot of people talking about pricing, and the world of like SaaS is definitely all about pricing. So you usually have 3 boxes, don't you? You have basic, you have intermediate, and you have enterprise, or whatever you want to call it. And you always sort of looking at they usually have all the different benefits or features, depends on which way they've done it. And then you comparing and seeing and making you buy. And I think a lot of people look at pricing in that way, but often you're right. It's not about that. It's often just about how you feel about something. And am I willing to pay that? I remember I saw a story about someone who had a t-shirt printing stand, and they were selling them they were like $7.99, exactly the same sort of story that you're saying. He was trying to sell them on this market store. Really nice t-shirts, but they're in like £8, £9, something like that. And then somebody told him to double the price, and he sold triple the amount. Because people just bought them more premium, and so they paid more money, and he got more orders online and everything. So it's bizarre, because sometimes you just think, the world of discount pricing as well is fascinating. Like you just said there, we started that by saying, never discount, which is another problem that a lot of people do. They launch with a discount, and you've straight off the bat, you're losing, aren't you?
Yeah, it's the whole thing of money off versus value on. So, for example, if you were, instead of doing 50% off, doing a buy one, get one free. For example, if someone looks at 50% off, they're going to go, oh, no one's buying this. They must be trying to flog stock. But if it's buy one, get one free, you instantly look at it and go, oh, now they're just giving me a good deal because they value me as a customer.
Mm. I'm keen to get your view on something, actually, Sam. I saw the other day a wine menu in a restaurant, but instead of starting with the house wine and moving up to the exquisite French Burgundies, it started with the expensive ones and ended on the cheaper ones. And it's really interesting because I think you anchored to the expectation you're going to pay more. And I bet they sold more expensive wine than house wine. What's your view on that?
Yeah, I think that's, the way you anchor a menu is obviously definitely important. The best one with wine, there's a guy, what's his name? I can never remember his name. It'll come to me later. But he talks about wine in a restaurant full stop, about how you're instantly prompted into buying wine. Because that's the one thing, if you look at it, if ever you go into a nice restaurant and you're there, you're going to mark the occasion by buying nice wine. And you never know how much wine should cost. So yeah, it could be something that's a £5 bottle, but you'd never know if it's on there for £80 just because wine is one of those things that could be marked up beyond all hell in sort of restaurants like that. But beer, for example, if you go into a nice restaurant and it says, oh, it's £24 for a pint of neck oil, you'd tell them to bugger off. You wouldn't, no chance in hell they can mark that because you know how much it should cost. So instantly when you walk into a restaurant, you're prompted into buying wine. As soon as you sit down, what's on the table? There's 2 wine glasses. There is a wine glass. And if ever you go into a really nice restaurant and you say, oh no, I'm not going to have wine, I'm just going to have a beer, or I'm just going to have a can of Coke, there's usually some sort of snobby waiter that will come around and emphatically lift up the glass off to say, oh, you're cheaping out on this meal.
Yeah. And remove the drinks list. They snatch it. Oh, they basically
take it straight away, don't they?
Here's your bottle of Moretti.
Yeah.
Slam it down.
Using a bottle of Moretti now bugger off back to the...
Yeah, exactly.
Sort of thing.
So does behavioural science underpin everything you do on the Mad Masters, or is there other elements of it as well?
I think there's probably 3 pillars, which is sort of behavioural science, creativity, and data. And I think nowadays so many people get bogged down in data, and they think that that's the all-encompassing important thing that you need to focus on. But I think for real success in the marketing world, you do need to have that behavioral lens on things. That is such a critical pillar nowadays. You obviously need creativity as well. So creativity is a big thing. The guys at the Business of Creativity do things really amazing there with John Hegarty. They've put a massive focus on that element as well. But that's something that can't die out. You need to have those 3 pillars there. You need to understand why people do what they do. You need to have that creative element to really cut through the noise. And you need to have the data, obviously, because you need to know who to target. I mean, if you were selling an online course and your data was all wrong and you were targeting junior mechanics, you're probably not going to get many sales from the marketers that you want. So those 3 pillars, I think, are incredibly important in the marketing world now.
So creativity is an interesting one, isn't it? I think a lot of people flatly refuse to even attempt to come up with an idea because they just assume they're not creative. But can anyone be creative, I suppose, is my question. And how can we be more creative as marketers, or is it down to the quality of the insight?
I think there's sort of 2 points to go down. There's creativity as a whole, whether you're looking at creative assets or the design, or if you're doing a marketing campaign, all the creative assets that go into that. But then there's creative thinking, I think, which is immensely important. And that obviously ties into behavioral science as well. But creative thinking is looking at a problem and figuring out a different solution to it. Maybe it's sometimes you have to think about that problem. You have to rewrite the question 10, 20, 50 times. Just rewrite it in different ways, reframe it, and creatively think through that solution. Because sometimes then the answer will become clear. It's not a problem anymore. So if you can inspire across teams, across organizations, a level of creative thinking, that is immensely important. And I think that comes from a culture as well across the company of, do you encourage creative thinking? Do you encourage experimentation for your teams to go out and actually get that success? Or is there that culture, which is also common in a lot of companies, where there's that fear of failure of, if I do this creative piece and it doesn't work, or this new idea and it doesn't work, am I going to lose my job? In which case, if they think like that, then they're obviously never going to try and do that creative idea. They're never going to think about that should have gone to Specsavers moment, for example, for them, or the Avis, we're second best, so we'll try harder. those campaigns would have never existed if they didn't have that cultural input of people being able to think differently and really strive for greatness. So I think creative thinking is a massive area that you see some people focus on, but I definitely don't think enough.
I like the thing where they say that you take a problem, you think about the brief or whatever, and then you let it settle, don't you, overnight or whatever. What's that word? What's the word we use?
Incubate.
Incubating. That's it. And then suppose my time's about 4 a.m. I'll wake up and there'll be an idea. That's when an idea pops in my head. It's really annoying. And they say that's when it's transmitted from the universe. I don't know, wherever it's
when you turn the main light on and wake up your wife.
That's when you get kicked out of the bedroom.
Exactly. Dog, usually. But creativity is a weird thing. Like if you let it incubate, it sort of comes at a random time. It pops in your mind.
Oh, I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, some of the best creative thinkers I know is the ones where it's kind of everything you're told not to do at university, of when you get an assignment, and you always used to, I mean, I was used to, I'm sure many people did, where it then gets to 2 days before it's due and you're like, shit, I haven't started it yet. I need to get on it now. But some of the best creative thinkers that you'll see out there, they'll have a brief that's due in 8 weeks and they'll say, cool, all right, I'm just going to sit on this. I will let it incubate. You can't rush that creative thinking. You can't rush greatness in those ideas. So they'll sit on it. They'll sit on it for 6 weeks. They'll sit on it for 7 weeks. But then there'll be that time where essentially it will just pop into their mind. They will have that magical moment that comes in that they can then get done quite quickly. It's that whole thing of sort of a lot of marketing is spending probably 2 or 3% of your time of what you actually do has incremental results. So 2 or 3% of what you do will actually deliver 110% of what you can do. And it's allowing sort of those times of looking for how to get lucky, I think is a big part of marketing, of those big things that will come off. And essentially it's those magic moments. It's getting lucky that will result in those multi-billion-dollar campaigns that can come off for marketers.
And you're right about, having a culture that enables creativity. It's a permission to fail, isn't it, in effect? And a permission, and a permission to, in fact, we did a podcast a little while ago about psychological safety in the workplace, and that kind of crosses over to issues like that. But yeah,
this whole podcast's about failure, Will. That's what the podcast is about. Like failing and learning from it, isn't it?
Yeah. It's as if we'd planned it.
Yeah, it's as if we scripted this.
I think I'm probably one of the most transformative ideas in business at the moment. It isn't AI, it isn't data, it isn't something that's just out there like that. It's something that's far more human, and I think it is a shared understanding, and that's something I wrote about last week. But it's creating a culture in a company that has a common language and a communal understanding of what they want to do and what they're trying to achieve. And that's something where everyone's scared of AI and everyone's scared of some elements of data and things like that, where if you can really kind of give this shared voice to teams within an organization, that's what's really going to help them stand out. That's what's going to create that good culture. That's what's going to create an amazing culture really for them to then be able to look at other areas and actually then have a safe space almost. I think so many people now don't have that safe feeling when they're at work, when they sort of are on edge about so many things. Is AI coming for my job? Oh, is this not happening? Is this happening? And I think that is such a pivotal point that people aren't focusing on enough.
So how can we introduce that then, that kind of mindset? What practical steps would you encourage marketing teams listening to this to because when we talk about improving culture, it feels a bit woolly. You need to break it down for us.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first one is obviously understanding that the role of the marketer may have changed. It's definitely changed over the past 10 years or so. And I think there's sort of frameworks that you can use, going back to behavioral science. There's probably behavioral frameworks that you can use, sometimes externally, sometimes internally as well. It's one that we actually talk about quite a lot on the course. It's the SCARF model of how you do things. So it's status, certainty, autonomy, reciprocation, and fairness. So that's a framework that we sort of use and we encourage about a lot. So, I mean, I can go into it now, but sort of status is obviously how you make someone feel, what you do, how you speak to them, how you do anything like that. Certainty is obviously making someone feel quite comfortable, making sure that they are certain in what they can and can't do, what they're actually trying to achieve, everything like that. Autonomy is allowing someone that freedom, actually letting them run with something. I mean, you always hear of those horrible micromanaged stories where you're sort of looking at someone and you hire them and you say, cool, I need you to send me a report every hour. That's not trust. That's going to instill an awful culture there. Reciprocity is doing things back and forth. That's pretty plain and simple. It's actually being cool, like the old, I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine sort of thing. It's giving that sort of, giving it back to them as well, like giving them something, giving them those, not rewards per se, but sort of actually kind of being able to be there together and look at those things. It's not just an individual's game, it's a team game for it. And then fairness, obviously fairness is you just want to treat people fair, you want to treat them quite nicely. And that framework there, I can't remember who actually, it was David Rock, who made the scarf model. He's a Kiwi guy who now lives in New York and does it. But that framework is something that we teach. It's something that you can use when you actually do marketing campaigns, but it's something that's also pivotal for that internal culture of how you can shape a team and really inspire them for success as well.
So you talked about failure then. So come on then. You're on a podcast about mistakes. What failure have you made in your career that you have learned from that you think that our listeners could use? Because they've made loads. I want them to all send them in to us. I'm really interested to hear what you've had to go through, because you've worked in sales as well, so you'll have had some interesting pitch scenarios and all sorts.
Oh yeah. I could probably give you two there. I mean, I think the biggest one for me, my mistake was when I was a bit younger, was just kind of thinking that I knew everything coming into this sort of stuff, just always being like, no, I know this. I know what I'm doing. I don't need that help. And if someone ever asked like, oh, can I help you on this? I almost viewed that as a sign of weakness, that it was sort of, oh, if you're asking me if I need help on that, then I'm clearly struggling or not doing the right thing. Mm-hmm. I think then as I sort of, my career moved on a little bit, and obviously then I started working with Rory as well, you realize that even someone like Rory Sutherland, who's an absolute genius, never claims to know everything. The amount of books he still reads and the amount of people that he asks for help and advice on everything. Someone that's mega famous, that's done this for 35 years, will never admit to knowing everything. So I think that was a big thing for me, looking back and just being able to say, cool, asking for help or asking for advice in a company, and from friends, from colleagues, from people underneath you, even people in your team, really, like sort of people that report into you, going to them and asking for help. I think that is a big thing, and owning that you will be forever learning through your career. And if you're not forever learning, then you're probably not going to go very far. So that's probably my overall one. What would be the worst sales mistake I think I ever made? This is
all scenario. We've had all sorts. We've had people turn up to the wrong offices. We've had people go on the wrong date. We've had people hungover in pitch scenarios. We've had people with decks with the wrong client name in the middle of the deck while they're doing the pitch.
Oh, that's probably quite a good one. I can say this now as well. As I remember, one of my first big pitches I went in when I was doing more of the sales side with this was for Expedia. And it was a massive pitch. It was meant to be this whole thing. It probably would have done about 50% of our budget for the year if we'd won it. And we did end up winning it, which was quite nice. But after, we had a bit of a setback because I also did quite a bit of work with Experian, which, as you know, the credit score sort of thing, and walked in to do this massive pitch in the Expedia office with the Experian logo plastered all over the deck that I was presenting, which then had to be quickly joked about and tried to recover from, to which I didn't think I ever would. Luckily, the guys that work there, I'm now quite very good friends with them. I've worked with them for a few years. It eventually became the funny side, but I think now when we catch up and once you've had one or two beers, they do still ask if Experian will be receiving the invoice for the drinks that night and things like that. So yeah, always double checking the logos on decks is probably.
At least it wasn't a rival company.
Oh yeah, but imagine going into that with Booking.com plastered all over everything. I don't think they'd have ever forgiven me.
I always like when I get an email from somebody saying we'd love to work with insert random PR agency's name, but it's not us, because they've clearly just sent it to everybody and forgotten that they've not tailored that bit. I mean, yeah, but I would say, well, what isn't one of the key things in creativity? Differentiation. And the fact that you won the pitch, was it the fact that you were memorable because you were the guy that fucked up and did the Xperia thing? I don't know.
Actually, it was a brilliant strategic move by you to be more memorable.
Yeah, exactly. No, I can claim now maybe that it was done on purpose to stand out. I like that quite a lot. I might use that when I tell that story from now on.
So Chris and I love the behavioural science side of things, and over the last few months, we've had loads of specialists in this field.
Richard Shotton, Philip Agnew, we've had them both on the show.
And I could talk all day about it. So do you want to dive into another? Pricing was fascinating to hear about. Let's talk about another area where brands could stand out more, perhaps linking with, behavioural science.
An interesting one that I've been doing quite a bit with Rory recently is the whole thing of reverse benchmarking. So it's a brilliant book. It's Will Guidara, Unreasonable Hospitality. It is a fantastic read. I'd recommend it to anyone. If you've seen The Bear, he actually plays himself in the show, and they're constantly reading the book.
And cousin Richie reads it, doesn't he?
Yeah, exactly.
That's why I need to read it, actually. After watching The Bear.
If there are any The Bear fans out there, you go and you'll realize that Will Guidara, I think it's in sort of the end episode of season 3, he actually does play himself in the show as well. But he kind of, to give you the context, he has come up with this whole area of reverse benchmarking. To give you the backstory, it was when he owns 11 Madison Park, the restaurant, and it was, I think they were ranked number 50th in the world or something like that.
Is that a book? Because I just read that. I did the audio book, 3/4 of it.
Unreasonable Hospitality.
That's yeah. Yeah, I got 3/4 of the way through. It's really good though.
It's incredible. He thinks about things differently. That is behavioral science in action right there. So for context, if people haven't read it, I'm pretty sure he was the 50th ranked restaurant or something like that, 11 Madison Park. And he wanted to take it to the number 1 ranked restaurant. So what he did was he took his team out to dinner at the number 1 restaurant at the time. Yeah. He said, I want you to make notes on everything of the night. I think I got about halfway through the meal, and he asked them, what have you written down so far? What do you want to share? And they started saying things like, the napkins are really nicely folded and the flowers look really good. And he said, no, bugger that. I don't want to know what they're doing well. I want to know what they do shit. That's what I want to focus on. And I think there were 2 things. So one was going back to the earlier conversation about wine. Anyone that ordered beer was made to feel like a complete weirdo. And the coffee at the end of the meal was terrible. So what he did when they went back to their restaurant was instantly he hired a beer sommelier. So if anyone did order beer, they came around with this nice tasting menu to pair beers with the food choice and everything like that. And then hired a coffee sommelier as well. So at the end of the meal, they were, we've got Italian or French or Yemeni sort of roasted beans or whatever it was, that they can really geek out on coffee at the end of the meal. So that was what he did. He was sort of, I want to focus on not sort of benchmarking. I want to reverse benchmark. I want to know what they do really badly and how we can do that really well. And I think that is a massive thing for marketing and brands and everything now, because I think it's almost, you look at what can your competitors, what can they do? What could they feasibly do, but they're not doing to be able to enhance that experience? And if you look at something they do poorly then, but they could be making it better, but for whatever reason they're choosing not to, if that's something you can then do, that's going to make yourself stand out so much more.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I was actually thinking of the beer when you were talking about beer before that book, because you were saying that they were whipping away the wine menu and they were, they're a bit snooty about it. I was actually thinking about that book because, the beer sommelier was a completely new thing, because beer in the US is not in the UK. It's obviously slightly different. We've got different types of beers compared to them over there. But the coffee thing really surprised me, because they went all in on coffee, and you'd think in America that they would be all in on coffee anyway, wouldn't you? You'd think that rather than just tea and coffee, here you go.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many other things like that do something amazing. So the Moxie hotel chain is another good example of that. I'm not sure if you've ever stayed in a Moxie, but their rooms are nothing brilliant. It's a pretty standard room. They are good. They've got a good TV. They've got good Wi-Fi, but the room's nothing special. But what they do really well is their sort of shared space downstairs. They have a 24-hour barista and a 24-hour cocktail maker down there. And it's sort of like a WeWork sort of vibe. So that's something, I mean, every hotel you've ever gone to, say your flight's at 7 p.m. at night, but you have to check out at 11. You then end up sort of sitting around in the waiting room feeling a bit like someone that's homeless. Like you just kind of don't really have anywhere to go. We all do it. You feel sit there, you're like, oh, well, I'll load my suitcases somewhere and I'll go and see that statue that I didn't want to see anyway, but now I have to fill the time. But the way that they've done it to sort of set this space up it's amazing, because then that way, if ever I go and I need to work or something like that, I would want to stay in a Moxie hotel. And it's just something that other hotels never put an emphasis on, and has now been exponential value for them, really.
That book is basically marginal gains in the restaurant industry. But what I got from when I was listening to it is the fact that he was so, like, I mean, he admits he's nearly a geek. He's like absolutely geek obsessed, and people have to be that work for him obsessed with what they're doing. It's like a passion, and that's why I thought it was so fascinating for marketing, because to be so obsessed with the marginal gains that you can make, like down to the coffee, the napkins, and not just focusing on comparing wines and comparing the key things. It's like when you get using the hotel analogy, it's like most people, when you go to a hotel, the things that they look at are checkout time, how good is the bed, and is the shower really nice? Apparently, the things that you remember. Oh, the breakfast as well, apparently, is if they're wrong, people never stay there again. But they're the basics that they want to get right first.
Oh, yeah. The breakfast thing is insane as well. I mean, how many times do you go on holiday and you ask, oh, what time does the breakfast end? And they say, oh, it ends at 8:30. Well, why the fuck does it end at 8:30 for a breakfast when you're on holiday? Whoever wants to wake up before 9 a.m. if they're going away for a week and they're in Tenerife or something like that? Whoever wants that? There's one hotel, I can't remember where I stayed, but I said, what time does the breakfast end? And they said it ends at midday. I was like, perfect. Anytime I ever come back, I will make sure to stay in this hotel, because that means I never have to wake up early just to eat.
Maybe a breakfast at 8:30 if you're going to Ibiza for a clubbing weekend. You come back after your breakfast when you get to bed.
Go back and go straight to breakfast and then go to bed for the day.
Yeah.
Am I right in saying Will Gadara pioneered that kind of surprise and delight technique when he'd train his waiting staff to listen in to conversations? And they do it in the Bear, don't they? When somebody says, I'm in Chicago, but I've not had a chance for a deep pan Chicago pizza, and the waiters run out, do a Michelin-starred, Chicago pizza and present it as a leaving gift. I mean, that's absolutely something marketers can learn from as well, isn't it? That idea of kind of exceeding expectation and surprising and delighting.
Yeah, exactly. It's the element of, going back to the scarf, it's almost an element of status as well. I mean, if you can listen into that conversation there and so you've heard that, the level of status they feel if you say, oh, I heard that you'd never had this, and because you're only here once and we want to make you feel so good, we managed to put this together for you. That's something that they will never, ever forget, because you've made their status feel so important to them. It's a weird thing whenever you get called sir, or someone you check in someone, they call you Mr. Benton. It's instantly, you feel, I got more status than this, they call me Sam. It's a weird thing that tricks in your head.
Well, it's like the prestige of the, when you go for a kebab and you get a handshake from the kebab shop owner.
I think what Will's done there is show you the sort of level we're aiming at here.
Or you get a nod from the landlord in the pub or whatever it is. But
I totally agree.
I like it. One coffee house. You remember your order without you even saying it. That's like a nice touch, I always think.
That listening in, though, it's such a fine line between really creepy and adding loads of value, isn't it? So, and I don't think I'd ever attempt that.
Yeah, it does need to be done well. The other story on the status thing as well, there's this one hotel that they found that they had really, really elegant slippers in all of the rooms. It was costing them an absolute fortune. And this is quite a good thing for both finance and marketing, really. It was costing them an absolute fortune and having to replace them, because even if no one had ever actually opened them, you still had to replace them every time, other than just health reasons, I guess. So what they did was they stopped putting the slippers in the room, and there was a note that said, if you do want slippers, call down and we'll bring them up. And when they brought them up, they'd then sort of stitched in your initials into the slippers, and they brought them up, and it just elevated their status so much more by saying, here you go. And it cost them a hell of a lot less than replacing the slippers every time, because probably 1 in 10 people would actually phone down for them. But then that's something that instantly it's a status elevation. It's those small incremental things that you can do differently to make yourself stand out that just have exponential results and make someone really kind of fall in love with your story or your company or your brand or whatever it is.
Yeah, the marketer and author and podcaster Jay Baer talks about that as being a talk trigger, doesn't he? Which is the idea that the best organizations have these talk triggers that drive this genuine kind of word of mouth. And the other example, which I experienced the other day, actually, I can't remember the hotel chain, but I went to stay in a Hilton, and they give you like a warm cookie on check-in.
Oh yeah.
The DoubleTree hotel.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just brilliant, and it's cheap, and I've told 10 people about it, and those talk triggers are absolutely brilliant. And every brand, I think, no matter who you are, has got the opportunity to develop a talk trigger.
Or a welcome drink, and it always makes you, it's a good way to do it because you're always a little bit stressed, even when you've come off a flight or whatever, and you go to a hotel. If you've got a welcome drink, depends what sort of trip it is, but yeah, that's always a nice touch.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the DoubleTree cookie. I mean, I remember speaking to them about that, and that their CFO absolutely hates that cookie idea.
Of course he does.
They absolutely despise it because there is no possible way that you can do any sort of ROI on the amount of money that they spend on the little cookie ovens and the cookies they give away. But from a marketer, if you took that away, or if you're anyone else, you'd say, no, you could never get rid of that. Don't care if you can't prove the ROI. It's literally, that is a reason of word of mouth. That is a reason that someone would go and stay there again. But for a finance person, it's an absolute nightmare.
But for every marketer listening to this, like literally there'll be hundreds of marketers listening to this thinking they're obsessed with the ROI of everything. We always talk about this, like everybody's upset that we've made ourselves, digital marketers particularly, obsessed with clicks and ROI of everything. Like going right back to what is the ROI of a bloody billboard? Do you know what I mean? It's like not everything needs an ROI, and if it's got some sort of talking point, that's essentially what marketing often is. So like the fact that people are word of mouth talking about DoubleTree, like we've just given them there. What was that? 2-3 minutes on DoubleTree. Yeah. Hello, Brett. Can we have a free stay, please, and a couple of free cookies? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean it's the bizarre line that you sometimes hear of what's the ROI on this brand awareness piece. That's the most stupid line I think I've ever heard. What is the ROI on brand awareness? You're not doing it for an ROI. You're doing it to be able to get your brand out there. That's literally what it is. But I think there's an overemphasis now on sort of that performance marketing. It's that quantity over quality. It's those clicks. It's those measurements. It's everything there. Where that's not the DoubleTree cookie. That's not the slippers coming out. That's not the extended breakfast. Those are the things that will really be able to sort of make a difference. And that's all behavioral science in play, really.
Yeah, it's short-termism, isn't it? Like all performance click, performance ROI, all that stuff is great, but it's very short-term. It's not long-term. I was speaking to one of our ex-employees a couple of weeks ago, still friends, and they've gone to somewhere else to specialize in paid strategy. And they're working for a huge global, well-known beauty brand, right? They're spending 200 grand a month on paid social, and they're not really getting it. It's just for brand awareness. That's all they're doing it for, is to get their products in front of this particular product. And they're spending hundreds of thousands a month. No ROI. The reason is brand awareness, so people know who it is and what it's about. So I just think the whole world is starting to get flipped on its head again, back to what it used to be.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And I think we're going one beyond that as well. I mean, there's this whole concept of sort of herd behavior and herd mentality that we go into it on the course as well. It kind of flows into behavioral science. There's a company that I do a lot of work with called Herdify. They essentially put it into action as well. It is essentially that people, as humans, at your core, you are a herd species. You follow the crowd. You do what others do. It's why after I was playing paddle, and I usually would have a beer afterwards, but the 10 people I'd had a beer with all ordered a Guinness Zero. So I had a Guinness Zero as well. I've never had a Guinness Zero, and I probably never will again. But because everyone else was ordering it, you follow the crowd, you follow the herd. I think that's when sort of brand and marketing come into play, of sort of what can you do, whether it's localization or the actual branding or the design of something. What can you do to make it stand out that other people go, oh, okay, I need to be involved with that. It's sort of that, it's word of mouth. It's that referral element, but almost at a larger scale, because at our core, we want to fit in. We want to deal with other people. We do follow that. And that is the whole thing of herd mentality. We're a herd species. That is what humans are.
This is fascinating, and I love the examples. And it's all about kind of thinking differently, and anything to do with behavioural science, I think we find eminently fascinating. So the Mad Masters sounds like a great investment to me. Where can people find out more about it, and how can they connect with you, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, they can go to our website, madfestlondon.com/masters. They'll find everything on there. They can download info packs. You can get in touch with me. It's sam@madfestlondon.com as well. If you want to drop me a line directly, we can chat through it from there and be able to talk about exactly what's involved and get you on from there.
And when do is there certain kind of intakes and certain time periods when that starts then?
Yeah, so we run 3 intakes a year. So then our upcoming one will start on the 8th of December. As it's online and on demand, people always say, why don't you just do it? No, that's as soon as they pay, they can start straight away. But again, literally, we were talking about then herd species. We do intakes so people feel like they're part of a community and they can go through it with other people. They can connect with they're a marketing manager from Specsavers and they can connect with a marketing manager at Nestle, for example, just to be able to, they're probably going through very similar problems and challenges and things that they want to explore. So you can almost kind of go through the course and connect and manage and chat with each other, which creates a really nice feel to it all as well.
What's one? I've got a question for you. What's one question that we've not asked you about behavioural science that we should have done?
Ooh, who to trust? Who are the biggest behavioural scientists? I would say, and who people should actually go and listen to and learn from. I'll be quite selfish here and say Rory Sutherland, go and do the course. But the others that you kind of would want to learn from, there's Richard Shotton as well, a brilliant behavioral scientist. You've got Robert Cialdini as well. You've got Dan Ariely, who's US based. I think he's from Yale University. But essentially, I like to call those 4 as like the 4 horsemen of behavioral science. And follow them on LinkedIn. Subscribe to their articles on Campaign or The Drum or whatever it is.
We had Richard on the show a few weeks ago, and he's just released a new book as well, hasn't he? Richard, actually, we've got his other 2 books, but I need to check it. We'll probably have to get him back on at some point because he is brilliant. I've got another question actually, Sam. Is there ever a question that Rory can't answer? No, definitely not. I mean, Rory is. He's amazing. He is really brilliant. I've had a couple of people ask me before, sort of like when he's off air, what's he like? And he is such a kind and amazing guy. To give you a story of him, we were in America. We were in Seattle doing a bit of work earlier in the year, and we happened to be there for my birthday. And he found out it was my birthday, and he went out, he got breakfast sorted. He bought me a couple of birthday presents, took me out to lunch, and just spent the whole day with me on my birthday, which was really, really nice because we were there for work. And he was just like genuinely happy to be there, and he's a really nice guy to be around. So he is absolutely brilliant, and any question you ever ask him, he will always be able to answer. And I'm sure he will answer the question, but he will also tell you 3 stories about that question as well to really hit home the message. And I think that's what people love, because he's so generous with his time as well, and will actually go into that detail. Yeah, I don't know how he's got so much bloody time to do so many bloody interviews. He's on everything.
He's definitely everywhere. He is definitely everywhere, and it's good. It's good. I mean, he's such a brilliant person to learn.
I'm just glad you've met him, because I actually thought he was an omnipresent AI, and he's just not really a real person. He's just everywhere. You know what I mean? He's on every. There's a brilliant
chap who's called Mikey, he started on TikTok and started doing impressions of Rory on TikTok, and they were so spot on. I can't remember the exact TikTok channel, but he was doing these impersonations, and it was very, very funny. And then we went to a dental conference, weirdly. There's heaps of dentists now doing Mad Masters, which is I absolutely love. It's an area that we can definitely do a lot more in sort of the medical sector. But they had hired the impressionist for the day at the event that Rory and I were at as well. So we'd just finished recording a live podcast, and the person that was hosting the day then said, Rory, we've actually got the other Rory here as well. And the guy was dressed as Rory and walked down the stairs doing the same voice. And it was sort of Rory on Rory. And it was a very, very weird thing to witness.
It's brilliant. The fact he's a minor celebrity, like he's a celebrity now, he's on TikTok. It's TikTok that smashed it, isn't it, really?
Yeah. That absolutely blew up his fame. Probably about 18 months ago now, that rise to TikTok stardom. It was just incredible. I mean, I still get friends now that sort of obviously know we work together and just say, can you do what every single time? He's all over my TikTok feed. They're not in the marketing space. They have nothing to do with this world, but they just see him absolutely everywhere.
Yeah.
I remember we were coming out of, I think it was Leeds train station, and there was a guy walking into the station with headphones on, and he saw us, and we saw Rory coming out, and he looked like he was having some sort of existential crisis. We couldn't really figure out what was going on.
That was probably
he managed to come out, and he said, I'm listening to Rory's audio book. I've just walked past and seen him appear. He couldn't figure out if he was hallucinating or what was going on.
Told you he's an omnipresent AI. Rory is everywhere.
Yeah.
Rory's he's coming to you from wherever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, that's really great. And so you've been on the show now, and you know what the format is. If you were us, who's the next person that you'd have on this show, and why?
The next person I would have on this show, I'd like to try and get you Rory, which would be good. Someone else that
and Will Goddard.
If you're looking for a marketing perspective, I'd say Rachel Carone, former CMO marketing director of Starling Bank. I do a bit of work with her now, and she's absolutely incredible in terms of talking about culture, how the role of the marketer has changed, and that success story of how to take Starling Bank from what they did to where they were. So I would recommend Rachel Carone. She's absolutely incredible in this space.
Oh, great. Oh, that's great.
Thanks for that, Sam. That was excellent.